Hi, this is Chris Russell, founder and growth marketer at Double Hall Strategies. I'd like to thank you for watching this video today. I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the template that's free to download up on my website. With this template, you can go ahead and enter in a couple key data points to get a really predictive 12-month model that will help you set targets for names, prospects, MQLs, SQLs, SALs, pipeline dollars, deals, as well as closed revenue. Having a model like this is super important for a marketing organization for a number of reasons. This is a new concept for you. I encourage you to check out my blog post on the topic. Today's video is all about the model. So the first thing to remember about this model is that every cell that's highlighted in yellow is basically editable and will help you configure your model for the next 12 months. So for example, as we start in the top left here, you can see that the first field to enter would be your new bookings goal, your new revenue goal. So if right now the model is set up for 10 million, but let's say it wasn't 10 million, let's say it was a million. And as I make this change, let's keep our eyes over here on this table. If I change this to million and save this, you can see that all the numbers in this table changed. That's because the model is set up to basically recalculate based on the business metrics for your business. So for example here, marketing contribution is 80%. I have my 5% monthly growth rate. If I wanted to change that to 15%, you can see again, numbers are changing. If I go through, I can actually set channel contributions. So, if my inbound organic channel, things like SEO and social media, I can actually say that's going to be 20% of my pipeline. I can also go through for, inbound paid, so things like pay-per-click, Google AdWords, sponsored programs, things like that, trade shows, marketing outbound, referrals. I can actually set pipeline contributions for each of these sort of channel groups. The next thing is average sales price. Average sales price is basically the contract value. So are you selling a $20,000 software package or a $5 sweater? Next would be average sales cycle. So this is how long does sales take on average to move an opportunity to close. The next one would be average names to ops cycle, which would be basically your marketing cycle. So when a new name is added to the database, how long on average does it take to develop an opportunity from that name? And of course, going on annual marketing program budget, how much do you spend on programs every year? And then you also have the ability to round. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back to 10 million and bring this back down to 5 to show you a couple things. So right now, if you go down here, you can see that all of the dollar values are rounded to the nearest thousand. That's because it's what I said here. If I went and changed this to the nearest dollar, you can see much more precise, but also not quite as round and as pretty. The next area to sort of look at here is the automatic calculations of cost per X, so name, prospect, MQL, and op, and customer. You can see based on your current spend level, your targets, how many names you need to create, MQLs, everything else, you can see what the average cost per X is. And then you can also see your annual totals here. You can see the closed one, dollar amount, $10 million, which is what I'm shooting for up here. So that's in line. The next thing about this model that's a little more sophisticated, but actually really critical for most businesses is seasonality. So you can see there's this row of yellow cells here all highlighted in yellow. And what this is basically doing is it's saying, in this particular month, in December, let's say, I'm expecting to close about 20% of my revenue for the year. November is about 7, 10. I can go through at any time and change this around. So let's say, this is 6, so I'm going to change this to 16. I'm going to go ahead and change December back down to 10. And you can see up here that all of my dollar values by month calculated. Not only that, but one thing I'd like to point out is going back to the idea of your average sales and marketing cycles, the highlighted cells here in green are actually showing you the waterfall you have. So as a marketer, you can spend money in January, but if you have a 1 month sales cycle and an average name to ops cycle of 3 months, what's actually going to happen is the money spent in January isn't going to come out the back of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel until May. And so that actually is represented for you here, just so that you have a good understanding of when your investments will actually trigger impacts in terms of pipeline and revenue. The next thing to know about this model is there's actually 3 tabs along the bottom. So the first one is bottoms up revenue model, which basically means you have an annual revenue target, and that the model uses that to calculate backwards, up through the funnel. So from revenue to opportunities to MQLs to names. The next tab here actually does the other way. So when you enter your total revenue number, the model will go ahead and calculate know exactly how many names and MQLs and all that you need to create by month. But once you have those metrics, a lot of marketers like to play around with that because they might go in and say, all right, my average cost per name here is, in January is $3.84, $4.34 in February. But if I go over here in April, I can see that it actually goes up to the $12.21 based on the budget I have here. So I actually think I can do better than that, capture more names. So what I have the ability to do is go down in the channel area and say, you know what, 600 is pretty light. You can see that, in January, I think I can capture 1900 that month. That's going to be fairly stable. So I'm going to go over here and change this to 1900. And what that'll do is it'll go ahead and calculate for you automatically how much more revenue that is. And it'll go through all the different stages so you can see how many more MQLs, how many more SQLs, how many more SALs. Again, any of the cells that are highlighted in yellow, feel free to edit. You can also go through here and update your conversion rates by channel again, by stage, to get a much more accurate view of how many MQLs you need by source by month, for example. The last tab is to take a look at SDR and account executive quotas and productivity. So you can actually go through here and say first, our SDRs, our sales development reps, do we measure them on meetings or on ops? We can actually change this and it'll go ahead and recalculate for me. And then I can go in and say I want to round to the nearest 1,000. And also, a lot of companies like to pad quota over, company revenue goals just to leave a little wiggle room in case reps leave or they have to onboard new ones or for lots of reasons. So you can actually set this to anything you'd like. So let's say I want to actually go 20% over. The model automatically recalculates for me. So going through here, you can see that I can actually go through and update my hiring plan. So in January, I plan to have 5, and I plan to have 5 SDRs the first 3 months of the year. But then I'm going to have a new SDR starting, coming on 50% quota, so that goes up to 5.5 SDRs on full quota in May. And then what the model does here is it takes the numbers from the previous sheet, excuse me, and it goes ahead and calculates what the quota should be for that SDR to meet these requirements that you set here. There's a couple different options here. The first one is seasonality, which is 100% based off the previous sheet. The next one here is without seasonality and without monthly growth. So it basically sets a flat rate per month for the entire year. This is great for companies that really aren't growing or don't have a lot of seasonality in their business or just want to keep it super simple. The downside would be that there's definitely going to be months that you'll probably fail to meet these targets, and there's going to be months that you blow them out of the water. The next line here shows 5% monthly growth rate without seasonality. So if you just assume that you're going to do 5% better every month and ignore that, maybe August is a super slow month and October is a super lucrative month, that's actually what you can calculate here. So this is going to be great for businesses that are growing. And don't really have to worry too much about seasonality or just want to sort of keep it simple. The last one is an average between a 5% monthly growth rate and seasonality. So this basically just sort of rounds off the corners and the steep peaks and valleys that seasonality could sort of impart. So it's totally up to you on which one you choose to use here, but it gives you comparisons to have some options. The next row down here with yellow is for AE headcount. So similarly for SDRs, you're able to calculate, how many ops or meetings they would need to create. For account executives, you can actually see here if you have 3 account executives, how many ops you need to supply each one, how much pipeline value is that, and then how many closed opportunities do they need to close in that period to meet the revenue goals. And again, just as I described the 4 different models here, you'll also see the 4 models here. So you can see with seasonality, without seasonality, and without monthly growth, and without seasonality at a 5% monthly growth rate, plus the average of seasonality and 5% monthly growth. So that's how the model works. Again, it's totally just a series of Excel spreadsheets. So feel free to configure and modify based on the needs of your business. If you do have a situation where maybe you have like a small business group and an enterprise sales group or a North American sales group and a EMEA sales group that are pretty distinct pipelines, you can always clone the sheets here and create separate models for each one so that it's because things like conversion rates or lead sources may be different for the different groups, and so it may be important to sort of go ahead and calculate that. So that's how it works. Feel free to go ahead and leave any comments on my website. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But I hope you find value in this, and I wish you the best of luck in 2014.